Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Silent shadows to cosmic defiance when humanity's voice shattered the void. Shadows among stars, the Veil nomads had perfected the art of disappearing. For 12,000 years, they had drifted through the cosmos unseen and unheard, leaving no trace of their existence. Their vast fleet of obsidian ships moved between the stars like ghosts, their energy signatures dampened to match background radiation, their physical forms bent around light itself. Fleet Commander Nera stood on the observation deck of the Phantom Tide, the flagship of the Nomad Armada. Through the transparent viewport, she watched a human colony ship lumber through space, its engines burning bright against the darkness. The humans are so loud. Everything they do announces their presence to the universe, their communications, their engines, their very existence. They're building another outpost in the Cygnus sector, reported Sensor Officer Ilum, his voice barely above a whisper. Even after millennia of safety, the Nomad spoke softly by instinct, that makes 17 colonies within 100 light-years of our harvesting grounds. Naira's 4 eyes narrowed, the inner set focusing on the data display, while her outer eyes remained fixed on the human vessel. They expand without caution, without fear. It's unnatural, Elm muttered. No species survives long in this galaxy by being so conspicuous. The Nomads knew this truth in their marrow. Their ancestors had once been visible, had once announced their presence with pride. That was before the Dvor fleets came, before they learned that to be seen was to be hunted. Only a small faction had escaped the slaughter, using the first crude version of their displacement technology to vanish into the black. Since then, the Nomads had lived by 3 principles: remain unseen, leave no trace, and, if discovered, retreat deeper into the void. Their technology improves rapidly, said Naira. Their detection systems especially have shifted uncomfortably. You don't think they could? No, Naira interrupted. Our stealth fields are perfect. Nothing can detect us unless we wish to be found. Yet doubt crept into her mind like a shadow. The humans were different from other species the Nomads had observed over the millennia. They seemed to lack the caution that evolution typically instilled. They pushed forward relentlessly, taking risks that made no logical sense, surviving through what appeared to be sheer determination rather than careful planning. The emergency alert sounded. A soft vibration felt rather than heard. Naira touched the communication panel. Report. The voice of Strategic Officer Vanner came through, tense and hurried. Commander, we have a situation at Harvesting Station Epsilon. Human vessels have changed course, they're heading directly toward the station. Naira felt her heart rate increase. That's not possible, the station is completely cloaked with our most advanced fields. Yes, Commander, but their trajectory is precise. They will reach Epsilon in 6 hours. Impossible. The station collected rare isotopes from a seemingly worthless moon, material crucial for maintaining our stealth fields. There was nothing of value there for humans. No reason for them to approach that barren rock, unless they somehow knew what was hidden there. Maybe it's coincidence, suggested Eli Lim, random exploration. Too precise, said Naira. Strategic, have they made any unusual communications? No, Commander. Their usual open channel chatter, nothing directed at us. Naira made a decision. Move the Phantom Tide to observation position Alpha 3. I want eyes on this situation. Order Epsilon to engage emergency protocols, full stealth, minimal operations. As the great ship silently changed position, Naira called an emergency meeting of her command staff. 6 officers gathered in the strategy chamber, their faces showing the discomfort of beings unaccustomed to crisis. If they found one station, they could find others, said Medical Officer Terran. We should evacuate the sector immediately. Resource Officer Jael shook her head. Abandoning our harvesting stations would set us back decades. The fleet requires those materials. Better set back than extinction, countered Terran. Defense Officer Morton, who rarely spoke, cleared his throat. Commander, protocol is clear, if discovery is imminent, we retreat. We've done it 17 times in our history, and each time we lost ground, said Naira. Each time we fled deeper into less resource-rich regions, our population growth was already negative due to resource constraints. The room fell silent. It was a truth they rarely acknowledged: the price of invisibility was high, limited resources, limited expansion, limited future. There is another option, said Communications Officer Lyra. All eyes turned to her. As the youngest officer on the Phantom Tide, her ideas often challenged tradition. We could communicate with them. The suggestion hung in the air like a dangerous gas. Absurd, said Terran finally. Contact is forbidden for good reason. The old enemy is long gone, said Lyra. And humans are not them. We've watched humans for centuries. They make contact with other species regularly. Many of those contacts have been peaceful. Many have not, countered Morton. Naira, what exactly are you suggesting? Lyra straightened a narrow beam transmission. Minimal information. We tell them we're here and request that they avoid our station. We gauge their reaction, breaking 12,000 years of safety protocols on a guess about human behavior. Terran's voice rose slightly. The closest a nomad had come to shouting. Not a guess, said Lyra, an analysis. Humans show consistent patterns. They're curious first, cautious second, they value discovery over security. That's why they've spread so quickly across space. And what if they react with aggression? Asked Morton. Then we do what we've always done, said Naira quietly. We disappear. The debate continued for hours as the human ships drew closer to harvesting station Epsilon. Through it all, Naira watched the tactical display and studied the human approach vector. It was too precise, too direct, they knew. 4 hours later, the decision was made, not unanimously, but with enough support for Naira to give the order. Prepare a tight beam communication, she told Lyra, minimal information. Let them know the station is ours and request that they maintain distance. As Lyra worked on the message, Morton approached Naira privately. Commander, this violates every protocol I know. But ask yourself this, Naira replied, if our stealth technology has failed against human detection methods, what good is running? They'll find us wherever we go. Morton had no answer for that. The message was sent. A single burst of tightly focused communication that would be nearly impossible to trace if the humans reacted badly. The Phantom Tide and its crew waited in tense silence. The response came 97 minutes later, directed precisely at their location, to the civilization using advanced stealth technology. We mean no harm. We detected unusual gravitational micro-distortions near what you call Epsilon Station. We are scientists and explorers, not warriors. If this area is important to you, we will respect your boundaries. We suggest neutral location coordinates for further communication, if desired. The message repeated in mathematical sequences and universal constants before ending with, we see you, we hear you, we respect you. Naira read the message 3 times before looking up at her stunned officers. They knew all along, whispered Aleem. They could see us. Not precisely, said Lyra, analyzing the message. They detected gravitational effects, not our actual presence. Our stealth technology still works, just not completely against their specific detection methods. So they've been allowing us to think we were hidden, said Taran, his voice filled with horror while playing along, though he knew we were there. No, said Naira, the understanding dawning, they knew something was there but not what. They've been careful not to intrude until they understood. That's why they've avoided our harvesting grounds. They sensed our presence and respected our space. What do we do now? Asked Morton. Naira looked at the human message again. After 12,000 years of hiding, of silence, of fear, they have been offered respect, not conquest, not aggression, but respect. We talk to them, she said carefully. Limited information, but we talk. As the orders went out, Naira found herself looking back at the human ships. For the first time, she saw them not as loud, careless intruders but as beings whose approach to survival was fundamentally different from the nomads. The nomads had survived by disappearing, the humans had survived by making themselves impossible to ignore. Perhaps there was wisdom in both, in the light of understanding. The meeting point was a small, uninhabited moon orbiting a gas giant in a neutral star system. Both sides had agreed to bring only one ship each, the Phantom Tide for the nomads and the human vessel Audacity, a name that Naira found appropriately characteristic of their species. A temporary structure had been erected on the moon's surface, half constructed by nomads, half by humans, with an airlock joining the two sections. Inside was a simple meeting room with atmospheric controls comfortable for both species. "This is unprecedented," said Council Elder Vorin, who had insisted on accompanying the mission despite the risk. As the political leader of the nomad fleet, his presence indicated the historic importance of this meeting. "In all our recorded history, we have never willingly revealed ourselves." "Times change, Elder," said Naira. "And survival sometimes requires adaptation." Naira had chosen Lyra and Science Officer Drill to accompany her and the Elder to the meeting. For representative seemed appropriate, enough to show respect, yet few enough to enable quick evacuation if necessary. They entered the structure in environmental suits, though sensors confirmed the atmosphere was safe. Caution was too deeply ingrained to abandon all at once. The human delegation was already waiting in the chamber, 4 of them, matching the nomad numbers precisely, a courtesy that Naira appreciated. They rose as the nomads entered. The lead human stepped forward. She was shorter than the nomads, with dark skin and closely cropped hair. "I am Captain Maya Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Audacity. With me are Dr. Elias Okafor, our chief scientist, Lieutenant Sofia Rodriguez, security officer, and Ambassador Thomas Ikeda." Their translation devices rendered her words into the musical tones of the nomad language with surprising accuracy. "I am Fleet Commander Naira of the Phantom Tide," Naira responded. "With me are Council Elder Vorin, Communications Officer Lyra, and Science Officer Drell." Captain Chen gestured to the table. "Please be comfortable. We've adjusted the environmental controls to the specifications your communication suggested." The nomads hesitantly took their seats across from the humans. For beings that had spent millennia avoiding detection, being seen, truly seen, was profoundly uncomfortable. "First," said Captain Chen, "we want to assure you that knowledge of your existence is extremely limited. Only our ship and 3 others in our scientific fleet are aware of the gravitational anomalies that led us to discover your presence." Elder Vorin leaned forward. "Yet you could have shared this information widely. Why didn't you?" "Because," said Ambassador Ikeda, "we recognize the extreme measures you've taken to remain hidden." Such caution suggested either cultural importance or past trauma. Either way, forcing visibility upon you would have been an act of aggression. The nomads exchanged glances. The humans had understood more than they'd realized. "You speak wisdom," said Elder Vorin, "our history is indeed marked by devastation that came from being seen." "Dr. Okafor," the scientist said, looking fascinated, "your stealth technology is remarkable. We only detected its effects because we were specifically studying gravitational micro-fluctuations for an entirely different research project. May I ask how it functions?" Science Officer Drill hesitated, then responded, "Our displacement fields bend spacetime around our vessels and installations, redirecting all forms of energy around us rather than reflecting them like a perfect cloaking device." Briefly, Dr. Okafor added, "Theoretical physics suggests it might be possible, but we've never managed to create working models beyond small laboratory demonstrations." "It is the foundation of our survival," said Naira. "But you've proven it imperfect." Captain Chen shook her head. "Not imperfect, just different from what you expected. It's like trying to hide from someone who isn't using their eyes to look for you but their sense of touch." The conversation continued, cautious at first then gradually more open. The humans explained their rapid expansion across space, driven not by aggression but by curiosity and a desire to connect with other civilizations. The nomads shared limited details of their history, the ancient attack that had nearly wiped them out, their transformation into a society built around remaining unseen. "So you've been watching this," said Lieutenant Rodriguez at one point. "For how long?" "Since your first radio transmissions reached deep space," admitted Lyra. "We've observed 17 of your colony worlds from a distance." "That explains a few things," said Captain Chen with a small smile. "Some of our colonists have reported odd feelings of being watched. Most of us dismissed it as space paranoia." "Not paranoia," said Naira, "instinct. Humans seem to have a unique sensitivity." As the meeting progressed, Naira noticed something changing in her people. Elder Voron's posture had relaxed slightly. Lyra was leaning forward, engaged in animated discussion with Dr. Okafor about communication systems. Even Drell, usually so reserved, was explaining aspects of nomad science to the fascinated humans. 3 hours into the meeting, emergency alerts chimed simultaneously on both human and nomad devices. Captain Chen checked her communicator and paled. "We have a situation, a ship has entered the system. Not human." The tactical display showed a massive vessel approaching the gas giant. "Its design is angular, predatory," said Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Pirates," she added. "Scavengers, they prey on isolated outposts and ships." Naira felt ancient fear rise within her. "They detected us." "No," said Captain Chen, "they detected us. Human ships don't have your stealth capabilities. They'd probably track the Audacity, hoping for an easy target." The pirate vessel was heavily armed, at least 3 times the size of the Audacity. "We should retreat," said Elder Voron automatically. "Return to the fleet and leave the humans," asked Lyra. "They would do the same," said Voron, though uncertainty changed his voice. Captain Chen was already giving orders through her communicator. "Audacity, prepare defensive systems. Warn them off first, standard protocols." "Wait," said Naira suddenly. An idea had formed, so contrary to nomad doctrine that she could hardly believe she was considering it. "We could help each other." "The pirates don't know we're here," said Naira. "Your ship is visible, ours is not, together." Captain Chen caught on immediately. "A coordinated strategy, your invisible ship plus our visible defenses." "Precisely," said Naira. "You draw their attention, we position ourselves to strike from hiding," Commander protested. "Elder," Voron interrupted, "using our stealth offensively violates, with respect, Elder," Naira continued, "survival sometimes requires adaptation." The plan came together quickly. The Audacity would appear vulnerable, luring the pirate vessel into position. The Phantom Tide would maneuver silently behind the pirates using precise targeting to disable their engines and weapons. "No destruction," insisted Naira. "No deaths if avoidable." "Agreed," said Captain Chen. "Disabling shots only." As the humans returned to their ship and the nomads to theirs, Naira felt something unfamiliar, a sense of purpose beyond mere survival, beyond hiding. For the first time in her life, the Phantom Tide would use its invisibility not to flee but to protect. The operation unfolded with precision. The pirates approached the seemingly isolated Audacity, ignoring its warnings. Their communications demanded surrender, their weapons systems powering up. They never detected the Phantom Tide positioning itself behind them, never suspected its presence until precision energy beams lanced out from empty space, surgically disabling their weapons arrays and propulsion systems. The pirates, faced with a ship that could attack them from invisibility, surrendered quickly. Human security forces boarded their vessel, securing the crew and confiscating their weapons. Later, as the nomad and human representatives reconvened in the meeting chamber, the atmosphere had changed completely. "That was impressive, Captain Chen, coordinated action for 2 species who just met, perhaps because our differences complement each other perfectly, your visibility, our invisibility, 2 approaches to survival." "Agreed, Ambassador Akita, both valid in their own way," Elder Voron, who had watched the operation from the Phantom Tide, said thoughtfully. "For 12,000 years, we have survived by hiding, by running when threatened. Today, we survived by standing our ground, invisibly but firmly. There's strength in visibility too, said Captain Chen. Being seen means being able to form alliances, share knowledge, and grow through connection rather than isolation. Perhaps, said Maya, there is a middle path, a way to maintain our privacy while not cutting ourselves off completely. The discussions that followed laid the groundwork for what would become the most unusual alliance in known space. The humans would help shield knowledge of the nomads from the wider galactic community, respecting their need for privacy. In return, the nomads would selectively share their stealth technology for scientific and defensive purposes. More importantly, the two species would learn from each other. The humans would teach the nomads that visibility did not always bring destruction, that connection could strengthen rather than weaken. The nomads would teach humans the value of subtlety, of patience, of knowing when to be seen and when to fade into the background. As the formal alliance documents were prepared, Naira stood with Captain Chen at the viewport, looking out at the stars. Your people have lived in darkness for so long, said Chen. Aren't you afraid of the light? Naira considered the question. We are, deeply. But fear of darkness did not stop humans from exploring the night sky. Perhaps fear of light should not keep us hidden forever. Besides, added Chen with a smile, you're not stepping into the spotlight, just allowing a few trusted friends to see you. It begins with being heard, said Naira. For millennia, we have been silent observers. Now we have a voice in the cosmos, that alone is revolution enough for one generation. As the Phantom Tide prepared to return to the nomad fleet carrying news that would forever change their society, Naira found herself thinking about the human, strange, contradictory nature. They were simultaneously reckless and compassionate, loud and perceptive, vulnerable and strong. And perhaps the nomads, in their perfect invisibility, could learn something vital from beings who had survived by making themselves impossible to ignore. Perhaps there was power in being heard, even before being seen. The voice, after all, can reach places that light cannot penetrate.